Thank you very much for joining me. I think it's been 3-4 years. We had a sit down, catch up, and at the time when we spoke, a lot was still at hand. You were looking forward to the Test Championship, and since then, being crowned Test Championship, I'm sure a lot has happened. Personally, how have you reviewed this past year since that day at Lord's?
I think just the interaction with people outside of the team, outside of the cricketing space has been quite encouraging. You get a proper sense of the shift in sentiment around cricket. It's a lot more positive. People speak about the team, the achievements, the successes. They're being with a lot of pride, you know, and I think that's something that we spoke about as a team. 2023 when I started my Test captaincy was, as much as we want to win, we want to bring trophies, but it's to get that pride back in the people, you know, for them to smile when they think of us as a cricketing team. So from that front, it's been very encouraging. I think also just interacting with people internationally. You hear them speak about in awe, right, of the team and how we were a couple of years ago to where we are now. Probably a lot more love from an international front that I've kind of felt. But I think a lot more pride in how people see and speak about the team.
I like that you touch on that, because there was a period where you would have faced a different side of media, a different side of fans, when things weren't particularly going well for you in the T20 format, and how that almost translated into what you were doing in Test cricket, and people forgot what you were doing actually with the Test side. What have you learned from that period and the fans, and accepting fans and the backlash, and also as a player, continuing as a player that you are?
I think through it all, I mean, for me, it just made me content, a lot more content with who I am, what I do, how I do things. I'm not trying to be a certain way, you know. I think at the beginning of my captaincy, of the leadership, it was a case of you kind of trying to find your feet. You're thinking that you need to do things a certain way, you know. And I think after a certain while, you kind of, like I said, you just accept who you are. There's a lot more content, and you just try to do things the way that you want to do it, you know. So I think a lot bit of that success has come from that, and also just sticking to I guess your own goals and ambitions, you know. Not allowing the commentary, whether negative, whether positive, to kind of shift where it is that you would like to go as a player, you know. And I think, I mean, that's a hard thing, you know. Easy said than done, you know. I mean, you score 100. You know, you're going to see it. You know, you're going to see the positivity. You don't score 100, you're going to see the other side of it, you know. So we're just trying to keep that balanced view on things, but always kind of keeping a sharp eye in terms of what it is that you want to achieve. I mean, a large part of me now within the national team has been within the Test stuff, has been within the ODI stuff, you know, as a player, but also the responsibility as a captain. So, you know, kind of having my energy and focus there, I believe has helped me as well. And I think also in where I am within my career, trying to find a better way to do a lot more of the physical stuff, the training point of view, having that time away from the international T20 has kind of helped figure out things there, but it's also kind of kept the love of the game going. I think there's a lot of cricket that is being played, and I mean, conversations you have with guys, you know, guys are always asking for time off and all of that, and I guess I've been fortunate from that point of view, in that I kind of get those gaps of rest from a physical point of view, but from a mental point of view. I haven't closed the door on T20 cricket, you know. So I mean, I still enjoy it. Don't get much opportunities, you know, domestically with the Lions. It always clashes with what we're doing with the national team. Within the SA20, you know, the opportunity hasn't been there, but definitely haven't closed my door there. So it's cricket at the end of the day, right? And I mean, as players, we always pride ourselves in doing well in whatever format that comes. But I think for now, the Test and the ODI, putting a little bit more energy there, I think has served me quite well.
And I love that you touch on the T20 side of things. And I'm sure you, being now the old guard in the setup, it must have been such a different experience seeing the youngsters coming into the side and almost, if they did, offer you a shoulder in that torrid period that you were going through within that T20 side. Guys like Stubbs would perhaps have to now offer you a shoulder who a year or two before would have looked up to a Temba Bavuma to almost bring him into the team.
Yes, I think, if I think of the whole T20 stuff, right, like it happened quite quickly, right? The T20 and the leadership, those were quite close together. When I got the captaincy within the white ball side, I think between the T20 and the ODI, I think I hadn't played more than 5 games. And I had decent numbers coming from the Lions captaining. We were winning trophies there, but I was quite raw, right, within that space. So the challenge was always going to be, from a captaincy point of view, how you move the team from a point where, it wasn't good. When you came in as a captain within the team administratively, there was a lot of stuff happening, and then there's you as a player as well, where you're trying to figure out your game, and you're doing it at an international level with the burden of being captain. So that's the challenge. That's the challenge that I had. I think it was always going to be tough, right? Within the test stuff, I was there 2014, by the time I got the captaincy, almost 9 years later, I kind of knew what my game was there. I was very comfortable with what I was doing. So that was always the challenge that I had. And you figure out things, you figure things out, right? You're figuring out things as you go, and there's certain experiences, challenges that you face that, you look around you, and it's very hard to be like, hey, this is what I'm feeling. How would you deal about it? I've never had that. And I think within the test stuff, when that captaincy opportunity came within the test stuff, I reached out to people outside of cricket, captains of industries, CEOs, to understand how, from a corporate point of view, they go about bringing a vision to a reality, and trying to using those principles into my game. But also the psychological stuff, you speak to CEO of Proteas, Mama Tisha, first black African CEO there, and you understand what her experiences were like, so for me it was always more psychological more than anything, and just getting to a point where you're just comfortable with being in the space that you're in and what comes with it, and understanding that your performances are always going to look about in a certain way. If you do well, it's never just a player doing well, it has like that symbolicness to it, and when you don't do well, it's going to show itself up in a dark way, in an ugly way. So that was a lot of the dealings from that point of view within the T20 side. But I think those are all experiences, memories. I think they've made me a lot more stronger as an individual, a lot more confident as well. If I think about it within the test stuff, I don't think people backed us, right, to do what we did. We started our campaign with the away series in New Zealand. We lost 2-0 there. We came on to pretty much win all our games, barring one rained-out game in the West Indies, So I think that experience, man, and just going through that, but also going through it intentionally, right? Not just kind of going blindly with hope, but kind of, step by step. This is how we're going to do it, and eventually getting to the pinnacle. That gives you a great sense of confidence as an individual. And that's within the test stuff. We could have the opportunity again next year trying to qualify for the WTC. There's the ODI as well, the 2027, where I would still love to play. I would still love to play a role there.
And just before we get to the World Cup, much anticipated at home, the test format and how it's changed over the years with the introduction of the Test Championship, has it changed you as a captain, knowing that every single test match now is up for grabs. A lot is at stake. And also the mindset, that winning mindset, that every single test match has to be a win.
There's a lot more context, right? And I think that was the big thing around Test cricket, that the powers that be were trying to encourage us to make sure that everything means something. You know, I mean, that's exactly what it is. You know, every series, you go in there wanting to win that series. If you can win it 2-0, 3-0, you want to win that, you know, and you kind of build that up until you get to a point where, you know, you're within 1 or 2 of the leaderboard, right? And I think that's what we've done. You know, we try to take every challenge as it comes, and make sure that we put our best foot forward. You know, and I think us as a team, you know, there's a legacy that we want to leave behind. We don't want to judge ourselves after just this two-year period. You know, we want to sit back after 4 years, after 2027, 2028, and see the achievements, but the story that we've created within the team. So, you know, that's the motivation behind the team. You know, take control of our narrative, right? Our story. I think for me as well, personally, it's been about that, right? You know, a lot of it is just taking control of that narrative. You know, started playing international cricket, was seen as a red ball player, and then from there moved into the white ball stuff. Now I have the responsibility of the captain, and even like with the T20 stuff, you speak about the T20 stuff there, you know, that's the narrative that people out there are creating. You know, there's nothing in my head that says that I can't play T20 cricket. The fact that you're not involved in the SA20, for instance, for me, it doesn't change how I feel about myself. You know, I look at the SA20, and it's a wonderful competition. You know, I think it's brought a lot of it's helped in bringing that positivity. And I think any of those teams, you know, that have out the players that I have the opportunity of captaining, you know, will benefit immensely. You know, I mean, seeing guys like Tristan Stubbs, our young guys now, they come in, they have that responsibility of captaining, going on winning. You know, that's exactly what it is that you want to build. But I think without rambling too much about controlling that narrative, don't let people tell you can't do this, you can't do that. You know, you write your own story.
I think it was 2022, 23. South Africa's down in Australia. Not the best of tours if you compare it to most recent tours to Australia. And there was a specific image I saw after the entire series. The entire Australian side had their wives and kids on the ground. And when you looked over to the South African side, yes, fairly young, you almost wondered, what's the mood like in the camp, firstly? Is it perhaps now really a transition period in the side? I ask that because a lot has changed in your life personally. The family has grown. Balancing. How do you balance all these things? Family, cricket, and amateur golf. I know you're a budding golfer.
Look, I mean, in my career, to be honest with you, I've struggled to find that balance. I think at some point there's always one that takes some priority over the other. For a large part of my career, it was cricket, right? Cricket was what I knew, and my identity was closely associated to that, right? But also my goals and what I wanted to achieve were always career driven. And then, like you said, family grows. Later on, you know, you get a proper perspective or insight into what really matters, you know, and a big part of that energy that you would expend there, that shifts into this precious life, and you really start understanding responsibility, pressure, you know, and really wanting to be a figure and role model for that young person to become like, you know. And a lot of the things that you do, you don't just do it for yourself, you know, you're doing it for someone else, you know. And I guess maybe that's a shift in that balance, but I mean, I'm still a professional. I'm still a professional athlete. Still a professional cricketer. Still have the responsibility of captain. So a large portion of my responsibility will still be there. You know. I also still have hobbies. You know, and I think that's my way of keeping sane, right? I think guys have their own ways of kind of finding themselves being just just finding ways of being themselves. And for me, that's what golf is. It's a tough sport in itself. But I find a lot of joy. Spend 5 hours on the course with your friends. Also keeps just that competitiveness going that drives us a lot as athletes.
Seems like, well, it's almost a decade ago when we had what I dubbed as the biggest summer we've had in recent times, which you would have been a part of. Plenty of drama there. 2017, 2018, Australia's here, India's here, with everything that had happened on and off the field there. 10 years later, you're still there. 2 months away from Australia coming back since that time. Have you started thinking about the next summer, which is possibly the biggest summer we've had?
Yeah, definitely. Our first duty, well, there was the white ball tour in Namibia, the Tri-Series, and the T20 as well as the ODI stuff. Those ODIs become important, right? For obviously what's to come next year. And then just after that is the Australia series, right? Test, those will be obviously in our efforts to rack up points for the WTC. I think sentimentally it will be our first opportunity since we have been crowned as champions, right? To play at home. So being a part of that, sharing in that joy with the people back home, that's gonna be fun. And we know playing against Australia, there's always fireworks when you play against Australia, that's gonna be fun. After Australia, there's Bangladesh as home as well, 2 tests there, and I think some ODIs. And then end of the year we have England. So I think as a fan of cricket, it's a blockbuster season that is upon us. And yeah, as always, we will try to put our best foot forward and put some smiles on our fans.
I'm sure seeing some of the youngsters in the SA20 gives you a lot of confidence going forward, not just with the red ball, but white ball as well, as we head to the World Cup next year. Talk about the squad depth in totality, including the one-day side and the test side. Are you satisfied, firstly? Are you happy with the players that are being roped in and almost how they've been brought into the setup and given the license to be and express themselves, particularly a player like Stubbs, Proteas, and now Brevis? That's a core group heading into 2027.
Yeah, look, I'm very bullish about the South African system as a whole. I think when you start singling out a certain competition, I think SA20 as great as it is, I think we can't lose the aspect of it being T20 cricket, and for you to identify test cricketers, you need to be looking at your 4-day system, So I think for me, yes, the SA20 gives a platform for the young guys to show their talent, but not necessarily for young guys to show that they're ready for international cricket, And I think we would have seen that in a couple of years that, as talented as you are, but there's certain other attrition that you need to go through to allow you to be successful at test level, which SA20 doesn't exactly offer you, So I think when we start looking at depth, it's looking at the system, but also looking at guys that have done well. You've got, and I think also when you're looking at the test team, a lot of the guys who've done well within the test team are guys who have first-class experience. They've played for their franchises, whether it be, you mentioned Stubbs, he's played for the Warriors. A lot of the guys, Keshav, myself, KG, Aiden, these are guys who've gone through the South African cricketing system. They don't just come from the SA20 or just one competition. So I think when looking at players, you kind of need to have full view of it and make sure that you're selecting the right players for the different formats. And you look about it from an India perspective. India very dominant within the T20 space. We saw their performances at the World Cup. That's largely due to their IPL, right, feeding their T20 team. But we've also seen from a test point of view where that their performances from a test point of view hasn't been at the same level as we know them to be. So I think there's we shouldn't miss that trick, in thinking that a youngster comes SA20, does well, that now he's ready for international cricket. Let's see it for what it is. But I think that's more for the guys who have that duty of selecting teams, Patrick Maroney, Shukri Conrad, myself as well, that, kind of see things as they truly are.
Let's say we did a production and named it Into the Sunset, because that's where you probably are in terms of your career and what is at stake on your doorstep at the moment with the Test Championship next year, which I'm sure you want to go and defend, and the massive one of hosting a Cricket World Cup here at home and possibly captaining the side there. The easiest question is, what are your goals within those two formats? Personally and in terms of the team, what are you guys most desperate about?
I think firstly with the WTC to see ourselves in that final. I think the hardest thing for me I found is getting there to the final, and then once you're there, it's on those 4 or 5 days, whoever plays well on the day, conditions and all of that. So for us it's to getting there, but there's a process for us to get there, right? I guess it starts with the dream, the hope, all of those stuff, but there's a process that we will follow closely to what we did to achieve what we did. And then from the ODI as well, similarly, kind of build it up. I think the biggest thing is identifying what that team would look like, and then kind of working around that, So I think also from a personal point of view, from a fitness point of view, just continue growing the confidence from that side for me. My training looks a lot differently. It's not the same as I was 10 years ago, and I think that's been quite exciting as well, just kind of finding ways to make sure that I'm always available for selection. My form is still good. I'm still confident in terms of my batting. Played a couple of games for the Lions, and I was able to contribute there. So as long as that is good, as long as I'm giving myself the opportunity to be on the field, unless things change drastically, I don't see why, come WTC, if we're still there, that I'm not there. Come October next year, that I'm still I'm still there.
In closing, part of the brain's trust and the recent success is with Shukri Conrad, now the current coach of the side. And 2-3 years ago, you and I spoke in Port Elizabeth, and what he's brought to the side and what he's brought to you individually. As you head into the summer, where is that partnership and relationship at the moment between you two?
I mean, it's still as healthy as it is. I think a lot of the success has been collaborative. So I wouldn't exactly single out one person. I think even from the players' point of view as well, I wouldn't exactly single out a single individual. Yes, he's brought about a certain vision within the team, and then he's been able to get individuals to buy into that, He was able to get me to buy into it from the beginning, and to take that responsibility to push and inspire the guys towards a certain goal, And then also the individual performances of certain individuals, KG with the ball, Aiden's heroics when accounted, and all the other contributions from the guys. I mean, I think about it from a batting point of view, how so many hundreds were scored at key moments within games, within the series.
Rabada Jansen and Centurion.
That partnership there, that got us into the final. So there's all those aspects. So I think from between Shukri and I, particularly within the test space, I think there's still that clarity as to what it is that we want to do. Like I said, if things change drastically in the other format as well, I guess we'll wait and see. But I think within the red ball stuff, there's still that alignment and clarity. I think willingness to work together, to keep going through the journey, to keep absorbing the blows, and making sure that we're moving the team in the direction we'd like it to move.
Temba, thank you very much. it's always a pleasure just speaking to you and almost getting a sense of where the team is. But more importantly for me, it's always trying to get where you are as a captain, because that's obviously where it starts. Thank you very much and all the best for the summer.
Cool. Thank you, Six.